Hey everyone, it is Dani and welcome to this update video. I hope that you guys are having a great morning thus far. And so of course I'm here with the latest in terms of what is going on across the North Atlantic, but our focus will be on the Caribbean region, especially in the Northern Caribbean where there was a lot of flooding in some areas yesterday. And so even after my evening update yesterday, there was a lot more rainfall that came and resulted in a lot more inundation in parts of Montego Bay. And so I have videos of that to show later down in this video. But of course, I'm going to be bringing you guys through the rainfall activity that is expected. And also the GFS model has been very consistent about a Caribbean storm later this month. And so I'm going to be going into that as well. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. Okay guys, and so let us go ahead and return to the satellite imagery of the North Atlantic, and we can see here that we've got 4 tropical waves that are noted across the area. And so let's go ahead and now zoom into some areas starting with Northern South America, and we can see here that there is definitely some activity across some areas, across sections of Guyana, but some of that is dissipating right now. We also see activity across parts of Venezuela, of course, central Venezuela, where we have the axis of that wave, and then over parts of Colombia we see some pop-ups of some deep convective activity, likely inducing lots of rainfall and thunderstorm activity in those different areas. And so as we look into the islands, the ABC Islands, which comprises Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, we're not seeing much, so beautiful sunshine this morning. Similar story for Trinidad and Tobago, as well as for Barbados and the rest of the Lesser Antilles. So we're going to be looking at the general region very shortly, but we could see a bit of rainfall increase for Trinidad heading into later today. So we're going to be looking at the rainfall total maps later in this video, of course. But let's go to the general Caribbean region, and we're seeing lots of activity in the vicinity of the Northern Caribbean. So we're going to be talking about that in a bit of depth, but let's go to other areas. So going to sections of Hispaniola, particularly for the Dominican Republic, going to Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the rest of the Lesser Antilles, we're not seeing where much is happening at all. So lots of beautiful sunshine for you guys. So I know it's been pretty hot there, and some of you guys have been longing for some rainfall activity, a good cool down, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to be on the horizon heading through today. And so of course, heading over into the west, going to Central America, we see that there is a bit of activity noted along some areas, especially near the Pacific coast of those different territories. But for the most part, there isn't anything too major happening at this time. And for the Cayman Islands, of course, things are mainly overcast, maybe with some shower activity as well. So returning to the sections of the Northern Caribbean, and also for the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands. So there we have all that activity, that blob, now making its way across the area, moving up to the northeast. And so this induced so much rainfall across Jamaica last night, heading into this morning, and some areas are likely still being impacted, or eastern parishes. But for most of the islands, it's likely that things are pretty overcast, maybe with some shower activity there as well. Some of that shower and thunderstorm activity is extended into the most easterly parts of Cuba and into parts of the southern Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands as well. So even though this blob is moving out, more activity is likely. We've got a lot of moisture within the region, and that is going to be favoring the development of more activity, especially heading into the afternoon hours. And so if you're in Jamaica especially, you can share what happened in your area yesterday or even this morning in terms of all of that rainfall activity that took place. For my area in Montego Bay, there was a lot of flooding, and of course, again, I have those videos to show you guys later down in this video. But now let's go ahead and move on to this map here, the Saharan dust map. So we've got some Saharan dust blanketing sections of the Eastern Caribbean, and that is helping to suppress the development of any shower and thunderstorm activity. But this isn't moving much further into the region, and I'm going to be showing you guys why. So going on to the surface chart. Here we have our tropical waves marked in our pressure systems. And so there we have that high pressure just in the vicinity of the northeastern Caribbean. And so winds in a high pressure rotate in a clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere. And so of course that dust is carried by the wind. So that is the rotation pattern we're looking at. And that is why the dust isn't much further in the region right now, because it is being carried by those winds, and those winds are blowing in a clockwise manner. So that is why as of right now we don't see much dust entering anywhere else in the Caribbean. And so now moving on to the rainfall expected. And so we're going to be looking at 3 models here briefly. So first up, we have the GFS model. Then we have the Euro, and then finally the Icon. And one thing that we see in common with all 3 of these is where is expected to receive the most rainfall activity through today. Going back to GFS, we have most of the Northern Caribbean as well as sections of Central America, and going to parts of South America as well. Again, we might see a bit of activity in the vicinity of Trinidad and Tobago. Going to the Euro, similar story with these same areas expected to receive the activity. And then finally with Icon, we see something similar yet again. So a lot more rainfall is on the horizon for the region. And so guys, of course, next we're going to be taking a look at what is expected by the GFS model, and then finally some more of the clips from yesterday's floods. So the GFS, as I said earlier, it is showing that we could see some action in the Caribbean heading to the latter part of June. So this is a map showing those isobars, which are the black lines. And so when we see them in a circular manner with a pressure of at least 30 millibars or lower than that, we're looking at a low pressure system, and they can sometimes be your tropical cyclones, especially in the tropics. And so there we have the forecast time right up there. So let's see what GFS has to show. So heading to the end of next week, going to next weekend, we see all of that activity within the vicinity of the southwestern Caribbean developing, and even over in the Pacific there is some action there as well, and over there has been rather quiet. And eventually GFS shows that this is going to be making its way into the vicinity of the northwestern Caribbean, moving over into the Gulf, maybe as a hurricane. So this is looking very interesting here. And so development will be dependent on the favorability of the environment. Of course, these sea surface temperatures are definitely on their way, but we also have that wind shear. When those upper level winds are so strong, they displace activity from the center and preventing us from having those symmetrical cyclones. And then of course, if we also have too much dry air in the area, it isn't likely that we're going to be seeing a whole lot of intensification. But this is something that is down the road, and of course I'm going to continue to track this for you guys and keep you updated. And of course, especially now with the rainfall increase, I'm posting updates twice a day, so I will be keeping you guys updated. So please stay tuned, as we're going to be heading into not just next week but overall throughout the hurricane season. And so now let's go ahead and see those other clips from yesterday's flood.
Wala dong naso. Load out. Can't cross it.
And so guys, there you saw it, lots of flooding, and sometimes these floods come on very quickly, but if possible, try to avoid areas that are likely to be flooded when you're traveling. And so of course, as I said, I'm going to continue to keep you guys updated, and of course you can share my channel to keep other persons updated on what is happening out there as well. So that is it for now, and I hope that you found this video to be quite informative. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'll try to respond as best and as soon as I can. And of course, remember to always be weatherwise.